Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Action, adventure, and espionage. Brian Donlevy starring in an episode of Dangerous Assignment. This from the final season of the show. The show ran from 1949 to 1953 on NBC. This particular episode is from February 4th, 1953, and it appears that Brian Donlevy is heading to Greece to free an American prisoner. Let's listen.
Dangerous Assignment. Transcribed starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell.
Yeah, danger is my assignment. I get sent to a lot of places I can't even pronounce. They all spell the same thing, though, trouble. But when I walk into the commissioner's office, I don't realize that this assignment's going to prove that sometimes the best way to catch a fish is to let him off the hook. Morning, Commissioner. You sent for me?
Steve, a freighter called the Colfax Star is due to arrive at the Greek port of Piraeus tomorrow night. I want you to be there to meet her.
She have a special passenger aboard?
Very special. His name is George Vuko, and he's carrying a file of papers stolen from a U.S. government office in Paris.
And we want that file, huh?
No, it's worthless.
Oh, then it's George Vuko we want?
Wrong again.
So I follow a guy we don't want carrying a file that's worthless. Look, Commissioner, what's this all about?
A week ago, an American physicist named Arnold Fried disappeared en route from Paris to Marseille. He'd received an urgent message saying that his son had been injured in an auto accident in the south of France. The message turned out to be a hoax.
Anyone seen Fried since?
No trace of him at all. He's a very important man to us, Steve. Fried was working on a secret project for our government in Paris at the time of his disappearance. Then, 2 nights ago, we learned from one of the secretaries employed at Fried's Paris office that she had been offered a sum of money to assist this Vuko in stealing certain papers from Fried's desk.
Looks like the people behind all this aren't content with just grabbing off Fried. They want his personal notes, too?
Right. So we obliged. We instructed the secretary to go along with their request.
A phony set of papers was planted and made easy for Vuko to grab, huh?
And now we think Vuko is on his way to the place where Fried is being held prisoner. Get after Vuko, Steve, and bring back Arnold Fried. Well, that's it. You've got your assignment. Good luck.
The National Broadcasting Company is presenting Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy in the role of Steve Mitchell, colorful two-fisted government agent. At all those places of the world where danger and intrigue walk hand in hand, there you will find Steve Mitchell on another Dangerous Assignment.
Sure, I've got my assignment. Get over to Greece, pick up the trail of a gent named George Vuko, and hope he leads me to a spot where American scientist Arnold Fried is being held prisoner. It's early Thursday evening when I arrive. I hurry down to the docks and wait for the freighter Colfax to tie up. She pulls in half an hour later, and I watch the passengers come ashore. None of them fits the description I have of Vuko. I wait another 10 minutes, but there's no sign of him, and I'm beginning to feel like something's gone wrong. I hurry aboard the ship, and after showing the purser my credentials, we go below to Vuko's cabin. I wait a short distance away while he knocks on the door.
There's no answer, sir.
All right. I guess you'd better open up.
Righto. You think something's wrong, sir?
I wouldn't be at all surprised.
There we are, sir.
Hey, no one here.
I was certain he hadn't gone ashore, sir. Oh, there's his luggage and his overcoat. He must still be aboard.
Yeah, I wonder...
May I assist you, gentlemen?
What?
Mr. Vuko. Well, that is to say, sir, we weren't sure if you'd left, sir.
I was down the corridor saying my au revoir to a shipboard acquaintance. Mrs. Farquhar, that is. Charming woman. Charming. You were looking for me, gentlemen?
Not exactly, Mr.
Vuko. George Vuko at your service.
You see, I've booked passage aboard. I'm going on to Turkey.
Oh, I understand. And this is to be your cabin?
Yes, sir, that's right, sir. This gentleman was most anxious to bring his luggage aboard.
Of course. I'll get my things out immediately.
I don't mean to rush you, Mr. Vuko.
Not at all.
Here, I'll give you a hand with those bags, sir.
I can manage quite well, Purser. Thank you. Well, gentlemen, au revoir, and I hope you have a pleasant journey. Mr.
Thanks.
Sort of caught us red-handed, didn't he, sir?
Yeah, I think he sort of planned it that way. Now he knows what I look like, and it's not going to make my job any easier. Back on deck, I watch Vuko stroll down the gangway. After he clears customs, I start trailing him. 15 minutes later, he checks in at the Alexandria Hotel and draws room number 608. I draw outside accommodations, a neat little hiding place on a small balcony at the far end of the 6th floor corridor. Vuko stays in his room long enough to park his suitcase and adjust a few other things, and then he's out again. I wait until he disappears into the elevator, then I duck out of my hiding place on the balcony and start after him.
Hey, just a minute, Sporty.
Huh?
I want to have a little talk with you, if you don't mind.
Look, in a hurry, Buster.
Stay where you are. I shoot.
Oh, put that baby cannon away, Buster.
Buster again. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Alex Pacos. I'm also the house detective. Surprise?
House detective? Oh, great.
We got complaints. A peeping Tom on the balcony, somebody says. So I come up here just in time to see you climbing off the balcony.
Look, I can explain. Here, I'll show you my credentials.
Don't do it. Don't try to pull a knife on me, Sporty.
A knife? Yet I'm only trying to show you my credentials.
Hold still. I will get the credentials, eh?
I'll help yourself, but hurry it up, huh?
Oh. This says you're an American government agent.
Yeah, now, if you don't mind...
Just a minute, Sporty.
Now, what?
So you are Steve Mitchell, government agent. Forgive me for lying to you. I am not really Alex Pacos, house detective. I'm Napoleon.
Okay, smart guy, and forgive me for lying to you. I'm really the Duke of Wellington. Oh! Friend Pacos pulls up like a road map. I head down the stairs, but when I get to the lobby, George Vuko is nowhere in sight. I hurry out into the street. He's long gone. Then I get a thought, so I trot back upstairs. The housecot is still sprawled out in the corridor, but there's a long, lean gent in tweeds bending over him.
Look what I found. Body, eh?
What happened?
Dashed if I know, old boy. It seems to have been an accident of some sort. Must have been quite a show, what? Missed it, by George. Was in my diggings at the time, examining my wart. You see here? Frightfully worried about it, you know.
He'll be all right.
Can't let a chap just lie here, prone and all that. I say he's a bit beefy. Lack of exercise, what?
Why don't you phone downstairs?
Righto. I say, old man.
Yeah, what's wrong?
We have met. My name is Quinton, Ronnie Quinton.
Mine's Mitchell, Steve. And call the desk, huh?
Check.
Quentin rattles his tweeds down the hall and disappears into his room, which is what I've been waiting for. I pluck the passkey from the house detective's pocket and slip into Vuko's room. The suitcase is on the bed, open. I give it a fast frisk and then start in on the room itself. I figure if the papers are still here, that means he'll be back. Otherwise, I'm cooked. I continue my search of the room until I hear a key in the lock. I duck into a closet fast. It's my old friend Quentin, the gent in tweeds, and he's followed by a seamy-looking little character.
Close the door quickly, Fabio. Good. The American chap is prowling about the corridor somewhere. We wouldn't want him to see us.
I don't like this. I don't like it at all.
Oh, you shut up.
But it was splendid. The American was to follow Vuko.
Of course, but that confounded house detective ruined everything before he detained Mitchell. When Mitchell thought he'd lost Vuko, he came back.
The papers. Where did Vuko leave them?
Rolled up in the window shade. Now hurry.
Yes, here they are.
Good. Now, you know what to do. Now, hurry. Your train leaves in a quarter of an hour.
Yes, I know. But, Mr. Quinton...
What is it, Fabio?
The small matter of money. 50 pounds.
Oh, you shall be rewarded in due time, Fabio, in due time.
One more thing. About this American, Mitchell.
Well, what about him?
What does he look like? I mean, if you were to follow him.
Oh, he won't. I'll see to that, Fabio. Now, go, boy. Go!
I watch the two of them slip out of the room, and when I think the coast is clear, I follow. I hurry out in the hall, and then as I reach the head of the stairs...
Aha! Sporty!
Oh, great. Napoleon again. He comes roaring at me like an angry bull. I sidestep. He goes flying past me and winds up in a heap at the foot of the stairs, out cold. I tuck the passkey in his vest pocket and mush on. 10 minutes later, I wind up at the train depot.
Yes, sir. You wish a ticket?
That's right.
Your destination, sir?
You have a train leaving here in about 2.5 minutes. That's the one.
We have 2 trains leaving in 2.5 minutes, sir.
Oh. Well, let me put it this way. A little gent in a gray overcoat bought a ticket here just seconds ago. Where's he headed?
A little gentleman, you say?
Yeah, he's standing right over there, eyeing that fat blonde at the coffee counter, the one with the small mustache. The gent, not the blonde.
Oh, that one, yes. Well, it's not customary to,
My credentials.
Oh, I see. What has he done?
We think he's Adolf Hitler.
No!
Hey, where's he going?
Salonika.
I'll make mine the same.
Yes, sir. 2-way ticket, huh? That is to say, you will be returning.
Yeah, I hope. As the train starts up, Fabio jumps aboard, and I'm right after him. I can stick close because he doesn't know what I look like. I follow him through one car after another, wondering when he's going to settle down. Then, in between cars, I suddenly get the idea someone is following me. I whirl around and look into the business end of a 45. Holding it, his friend Quentin.
You are a persistent fellow, aren't you, Mr. Mitchell?
Steve Mitchell will continue his dangerous assignment in just a moment.
From February 4th, 1953, Brian Donlevy, Dangerous Assignment. You're listening to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. More of the program follows these important words. The Overstock sale continues at MyPillow.com. Deep discounts on Giza Dream Sheets, MyPillow original pillows, the My Slippers, half price. I love mine. And with every order you make by going to MyPillow.com/radio specials, you'll get a free copy of Mike Lindell's book, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. MyPillow.com/radio specials, promo code USA. Thanks so much for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The show, very, very typical espionage of the era, Cold War drama. It was originally a summer replacement series in 1949 and then became a full-time series on NBC in 1950 and would remain with the network until July 8th of 1953. And I have to tell you that the show still was so popular in the down south, down under, I should say, in Australia. Many of the scripts were redone in 1954. They did 39 episodes of that series with, of course, different actors. Lloyd Burrell portrayed Steve Mitchell. It was originally portrayed in Australia, as I said, for 39 episodes, but then it was used for many, many years. Alrighty, and did you know that there was a television series? Brian Donlevy did formed a production company to take the radio show to a television show. It had 39 episodes produced in syndication, and Brian Donlevy starring still as Steve Mitchell. Now, back to Dangerous Assignment. February 4th, 1953, Steve Mitchell is in Greece.
Now back to Dangerous Assignment and Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell.
What are you waiting for, Quentin? Why don't you get it over with?
My, such impatience to die, old boy. You really should exercise more. Now, I think we're going sufficiently fast. Yes. One moment now, while I get the door open. There. Now, Mitchell.
He suddenly kicks at me, but I dive to one side. I manage to grab the handrail. Then he smashes down on my knuckles with a gun barrel, and I fall out. I land on the roadbed and roll onto the other tracks. I lie there a moment stunned. Then, dimly, I can make out an approaching roar. Another train heading right for me. Quentin's timing was pretty good. I yell with strength. I got left and roll off the tracks just in time. After my head clears, I make it to the road and flag down a car. Hey, look, I've got to beat a train to Salonika and... Hey.
Mitchell!
Vuko!
Get back! Sorry! Oh!
Thanks for the use of the car, Vuko, old boy. After I drag Vuko's body into the weeds by the side of the road and take off in his car, I keep the accelerator down to the floor. Finally pull up in the train just at the outskirts of Salonika. It's a dead heat at the depot. I get there as Fabio and Quentin step off the train. Fabio starts walking through the Prados district with Quentin following half a block behind, probably to make sure that nothing happens to Fabio. Now, I've got a problem. Fabio's the boy I want to follow, but I can't do that very well with Quentin tagging along. I ease around a parked truck and wait until Quentin walks by. Hi, sweetheart. Just keep your hands in sight, old boy.
Let go my arm.
Keep quiet or your arm goes with me. Now walk.
What good's this going to do you?
The way I figure it, Quentin, the play was for me to follow Vuko. He was the decoy. In the meantime, Fabio up ahead there is the boy with the papers. Either he passes them to somebody else or takes them to where your outfit is holding our missing scientist, Fried.
I'm afraid that your brilliant and accurate deductions won't do you much good, old chap.
Why not?
You see, we really don't believe in taking any chances. As you note, I was following Fabio to keep an eye on him, and I'm reasonably certain that at this moment Vuko is following me.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but Vuko got delayed.
What?
Fortunately for me, he was tailing the train. I persuaded him to let me borrow his car. Here, this is far enough. Truckload of cabbages. That'll do very nicely.
Mitchell, don't try it.
I gag him with his handkerchief and tie him up with his belt and necktie. Then I roll him onto the truck under some of the cabbages. As I start away, the driver shows up and drives off with the truck. So I figure Quentin is out of the ball game for the time being. I take off after Fabio and tail him to a small bar. But the way he starts tossing down the drinks, it doesn't look like he's got anything on his mind but a celebration. I start wondering if anything's gone wrong or if he's already passed on the papers. I figure I'd better get closer to him, which I can do because he doesn't know what I look like. But along about then, he saves me the trouble. He decides to get closer to me.
You like Fabio to buy you a drink?
Well,
That's good. Bartender, bring drink for my friend. I like your face. I buy you a drink.
Thanks, but don't let me keep
you. You don't keep me. I got nothing to do but drink with people I like. You I like. You have happy face, not like sour face or him.
Who?
Over there, I don't like his face.
That happens to be a police lieutenant, Buster.
Fabio. And I don't care if he is police lieutenant or mayor.
Hey, watch out, your coat sleeve. It's in the ashtray.
Huh?
Don't look now, but you just burned a hole in your sleeve.
Stop trying to change the subject. Hey, you! You over there.
Hey, look.
Come here, you.
Yes? Yes, sir. What is the matter?
You know something? I don't like your face.
Look, Lieutenant, he's...
You keep out of this.
I suggest you keep quiet and avoid trouble.
Trouble? You want trouble, huh? I'll give you trouble.
You're drinking my face.
Oh, brother.
You are under arrest.
You want more trouble? I'll give you more.
Hey, cut it out.
I will handle him.
You sure did.
You are a friend of his?
Not exactly, Lieutenant. I'll fill you in on the way to the police station. Oh, where'd you put him, Lieutenant?
Where he belongs, Mr. Mitchell, in the drunk tank.
Well, looks like I'm right up against the old stone wall at this point.
As I understand it, this scientist of yours, this Fried, was kidnapped?
Yeah, they used a phony story about his son being injured to lure him to a spot where they could grab him.
I see. Then they forced him to request his confidential notes from his secretary.
Yeah, we sent along a worthless set, hoping to follow them to Fried.
Uh-huh. And you say this drunken Fabio was the courier?
I thought so.
But there on the table are the things we took from his pockets.
Yeah, I know. There's no sign of the papers. Of course, he may have them sewn into his clothes somewhere.
Uh-huh. We could search him as thoroughly as you like.
That, of course, would tip him off.
But then perhaps he had passed the papers on to someone else.
That's what's got me worried. Still, I don't think he did.
Oh, why not?
If he had, he probably would have been paid off. I remember him mentioning to Quentin the price was £50.
Ah, and there were no pounds among the money in his pocket.
Yeah. I doubt if he could have spent that much in the bar. I wonder if he's still unconscious.
Oh, come, we will see. There is a peephole here in the wall through which we can look directly in on them without being observed. Ah, there he is.
Yeah, sleeping it off. Hey, Looks like somebody's getting released.
Oh, yes. The sailor. He is one of our habitual guests, at least once a week.
Well, looks like I'm stumped, Lieutenant. Hey, wait a minute.
What is it?
That sailor.
What about him?
His sleeve.
I don't see what you mean.
Listen, Lieutenant, the deal just added up. Better get a couple of your men to tag along after me and be ready to close in fast.
Looks like the end is near. Brian Donlevy, Dangerous Assignment. As it was originally broadcast February 4th, 1953, right here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll have the conclusion following some important words from your favorite station. And also during the next hour of our program, we will hear a program from wartime, Any Bonds Today. That's next when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues.
Here's some great news. If you missed the deadline to sign up for health insurance, or if, like a lot of people, you just have a plan you're not happy with, you still have a choice. It's called MediShare. It's a Christian healthcare sharing program. There are more than 400,000 members now, and they love it. In fact, MediShare has double the customer satisfaction rate compared to that of health insurance. And MediShare really is the gold standard when it comes to healthcare sharing. It's been around more than 25 years. Members have shared more than $4 billion of each other's medical bills. Plus, MediShare is for you. It has saved its members billions by advocating on their behalf. Best of all, the typical savings for a family is around $6,000 a year. So if you think you're stuck with a high-cost health plan that doesn't have much to offer, think again. MediShare has a 98% customer satisfaction rating, and you are invited to be part of it. Call now. 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now the conclusion of Dangerous Assignment starring Brian Donlevy, February 4th, 1953.
I slip outside and start tailing the sailor. He heads straight for the waterfront to a rusty-looking freighter tied up at one of the piers. There's no one in sight on the deck, and it's dark enough for me to slip aboard after him. He heads forward, but I want to take a look below decks. I ease down the ladder, and then I know my hunch is right. There's a stocky gent guarding the door to one of the staterooms. I come up behind him, and he never knows what hit him. Inside, there's a man stretched out on the bunk. It's our missing scientist, Fried. I try to rouse him, but apparently he's been drugged. Then I hear a sound in the doorway. I whirl around and stare at the business end of a gun.
Don't move, Mitchell.
Well, hello, Bucco.
Did you visit our ship to return the automobile you borrowed from me so forcibly?
Sure. That and to pick up our scientist here.
I'm afraid I shall have to deny you that. We intend to shove off shortly. Please be our guest.
Thanks. Where to?
Our destination is a port in the Black Sea. However, you will not stay with us that long.
Bucco motions me back into the stateroom.
What?
The lieutenant and his boy is up on deck.
Get back, mister.
But he's taken his eyes off me too long. I'm on top of him before he can shoot. I hack the gun out of his hand. It goes flying, but he gives me a knee in the stomach. That jackknifes me onto the deck. Before I can recover, he gets to the gun, grabs it, and swings it towards me.
Mister! Are you all right,
Yeah. But if it hadn't been for that shot of yours just then, I sure wouldn't be, Lieutenant.
My men have taken the rest of the crew prisoners. Oh, and that is our scientist in there.
Yeah, he's drugged, but otherwise okay.
Mitchell, I am still not clear how you knew to follow the sailor here from the jail.
I spotted a burned hole in his sleeve. I remembered that Fabio had burned a hole in his sleeve in the bar.
Ah, you mean the sailor had exchanged coats with Fabio in the drunk tank?
Sure. I figured Fabio put on that whole routine in the bar so he'd land in jail and pass the papers in his coat along to the sailor.
Well, it was most fortunate you noticed the sleeve.
Yeah, Fabio tried a little sleight of hand on us. But he should have known a magician is dead as soon as anybody spots what he's got up his sleeve.
Included in tonight's cast were Jan R. Van, Paul Frees, Paul Duboff, Ramsey Hill, and Tony Barrett. This is John Storm speaking. Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donlevy as Steve Mitchell, with Herb Butterfield as the commissioner, is written by Bob Reif and Adrian Jondeau and is directed by Bill Karn. Be with us again next week at this same time when Brian Donlevy, starring in the role of Steve Mitchell, will embark on another transcribed Dangerous Assignment.
From February 4th, 1953, Dangerous Assignment on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. You've heard us talk about the luxurious Giza Dream Sheets from MyPillow. Well, now they're on sale, 60% off as low as $39.99. Lots of other overstock items and a free copy of Mike Lindell's book, What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO, with any purchase, but you've got to use my promo code USA. Go to MyPillow.com, the Radio Listener Square, use my promo code USA or call 1-800-951-8175. Our fighting men fought to win World War II, but the American people paid for it, and it was war bonds that did it. Unfortunately, the price of the war was very significant, and the American people had to keep giving and giving and giving, and the drive was on to make war bonds happen. And of course, you saw it in motion picture houses, in newspapers, on the streets, and also on radio. This is a program from that era entitled Any Bonds Today. It stars Peter Fonda. This episode of the program was originally broadcast on February 4th, 1942. The Man from Cemetery Ridge.
Any Bonds Today, starring Henry Fonda on the transcribed program of the United States Treasury Department. By the way, have you bought any bonds today? Any bonds today? Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling. Any bonds today? Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man asking you to buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps today? We'll be blessed if we all invest in the USA. Here comes the freedom man. Can't make tomorrow's plan, not unless you buy a share of freedom today. Some 78 years ago, an incident occurred which became one of America's milestones. An incident that is a disputed chapter in history because no one can say without contradiction when and where and how it happened. We give you our story of that incident the way we believe it may have occurred. Starring Henry Fonda with Bill Adams and John Brown, we present The Man from Cemetery Ridge, written for the Treasury Department by D.H. Johnson. Music by the Treasury Department Orchestra and Chorus. This is the 18th of November, 1863. An autumn afternoon in a peaceful valley of northern Maryland. It is a mild, still day. The smoky sun gleams low on harvest stubble and grazing herds. And there is no suggestion of the bitter strife that has raged for more than 2.5 years. No hint of the war until a bustling little locomotive thrusts the towering cone of its smokestack around a bend in the valley and chuffs importantly northward toward the hills of Pennsylvania. The cars behind it draped with flags and filled with men in the blue of the Northern Army. But not all are in uniform. Here in the last car, watching the passing gold and russet land from the windows of a private compartment, are 2 men in civilian garb. One is Abraham Lincoln. The other, younger man, his trusted personal aide, John Hay. Lincoln's eyes are somber, and his voice is weary as he says,
John, I'm worried.
The war, sir?
The war is more than a worry, John. This is another matter. I'm afraid I'm going to cut a mighty sorry figure up there tomorrow.
I wouldn't say that, Mr. Lincoln.
You're too loyal, John. I might as well face the facts. Any words of mine are going to sound mighty shoddy after Mr. Everett's speech. Have you read what he's going to say?
No, sir.
I know he sent you a copy.
I have it here. It's a beautiful piece of writing.
Why not? They gave him 3 months to write it. They let you know 2 weeks ago as an afterthought. With a message to Congress to prepare a war going on.
That doesn't matter, John. I fear I couldn't have done this well if I'd have had 2 years. Let me read you a little of this. Oration to be delivered by the Honorable Edward Everett at the dedication of a National Soldiers Cemetery at Gettysburg, November. Here's the beginning. Overlooking these broad fields, now reposing from the labors of the waning year, the mighty Alleghanies dimly towering toward us, the graves of our brethren beneath our feet, it is with hesitation that I raise my poor voice to break the eloquent silence of God and nature. Now, that's magnificent oratory, John.
I'll grant that. Mr. Everett is the greatest speaker alive. How long will he talk, sir?
About 2 hours, I reckon. And then they'll call on me for the dedication. I'll make some stumbling, inane remarks.
Mr. Lincoln.
Well, that's what a lot of folks say about my speeches, John. Looks like they'll have more cause than ever hearing me after Mr. Everett.
It doesn't matter what they say.
But it does. Not to me. I'm thinking of some of the folks who'll be there. Mothers and fathers and wives of men who died at Gettysburg. A lot of them blame me for the war. And when they hear me, well, they'll lose what little faith they have left in the Republic. If I could only think of the right thing to say.
May I make a suggestion, sir?
Why, of course, John.
Could you describe the battle, sir? I mean, as it might have seemed to a soldier who took part in it.
I know very little of how battles seem to soldiers, John. In my few weeks in the Black Hawk War...
But you might talk to someone who was there, sir.
Who?
The train's full of soldiers, Mr. Lincoln. There must be some who saw action at Gettysburg.
Yes. I reckon it might not do any harm at that.
I'll go through the train and find someone at once, sir. I'll send him in. Oh, by the way.
Yes, John?
I have a letter for you in my dispatch case in the next car. It arrived just as we left the White House. I'll bring it when I come back.
Very well, John. Yes, come in.
Private Williams reporting, sir.
Williams?
I was asked to tell you about Gettysburg, sir.
Oh, yes, of course. You were sent... Say, wait a minute. You're Tom Williams.
Yes, sir.
From Springfield.
I wasn't sure you'd remember me, sir.
Well, I might not recognize you, Tom, the way you filled out, but I certainly remember you. A few years back, you were the noisiest boy in Springfield.
Reckon I was.
The way you used to run up and down in front of my house dragging a stick against the pickets and yelling outside my law office when I was studying up on a case.
I'm mighty sorry if I used to bother you, Mr. Lincoln. I reckon I just like to make a lot of racket.
Yeah, well, most boys do, Tom. Yeah, so you were in Gettysburg, eh? I imagine you got enough racket there.
It wasn't mighty noisy, sir. Awful quiet, too.
Noisy and quiet?
Sometimes it was like being in a terrible storm with cannon for thunder and musket balls instead of rain. And sometimes it was so still you could hear your own breathing and the blood pounding in your ears.
I didn't know that.
First time it was so awful quiet was the morning of the third day. My company was behind a stone wall on Cemetery Ridge. We could see the Rebs over on the next ridge about a mile away getting ready for something. But hours and hours went by and it didn't happen. It kept getting quieter and quieter and scarier like.
Scarier?
I ain't told nobody but you, sir, but I was mighty scared.
I reckon it takes a brave man to admit that, Tom.
Then, about noon, the artillery opened up and it got good and noisy again. I wasn't scared no more. Then they started their advance and the guns stopped. They couldn't fire for fear of dropping shells on their own men, and we was waiting for them to get closer. 15,000 of them marching toward us across the valley, and not a sound. I got awful scared then.
What was it, Tom? A fear of dying?
No, sir. It wasn't that scared me. It's an awful thing to say to the president of a country, sir, but you're my friend.
You can tell me, Tom.
What scared me was watching them men come on. They was marching right into death, and they knew it. But they didn't even break step. You got to have something to do that. You got to believe in something. You got to think you're right.
They're brave men, Tom. And they do believe they're right.
The thing that scared me was thinking, maybe they are right. All through that awful stillness, the thought kept getting louder and louder in my brain. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this wave of men coming on is something there's no use fighting against. Maybe what they stand for is supposed to happen.
I see.
Then firing started, and I didn't have no more time to think for a while. And I wasn't scared no more. Then I got shot.
You were wounded?
Musket ball in the throat, sir. I fell down. The sky got kind of dark, and all the noise faded far away and stopped. It was terrible quiet then. Quieter than I ever knew it could be. But that time I wasn't scared.
Why not, Tom?
Because I figured I was dying, sir, and the whole thing come clear to me all at once like a great light. I wasn't scared no more because I knew I wasn't wrong. I realized them fellas that started this country back in '76 started something that was meant to be. It's worth fighting to keep. It's worth dying for. If the fellas that don't die take care of it after you're gone, it's got to keep on going because it's right.
What happened then, Tom?
Oh, nothing much, sir. They come and picked me up and took me away. I've got to get back to duty, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, goodbye, Tom. It's been good talking to you. I'll write your mother and tell her that I saw you.
Oh, you needn't, sir. Mother knows where I am. Goodbye, Mr. Lincoln. I'll see you again.
Goodbye, Tom.
Oh, Mr. Lincoln.
Oh, yes, John.
Mr. Lincoln, I went through the whole train. There's no one aboard who saw action at Gettysburg.
What?
There's no one on the train, sir, who was in that battle.
But there must... Oh.
What was that, sir?
Oh, never mind, John. Is that the letter you mentioned?
Oh, yes, sir. It's postmarked Springfield. Shall I read it?
Yes, John.
It's from a Mrs. Williams. She says, Dear Mr. Lincoln, as an old neighbor, I know you will share my grief at the news that has just reached me. My son, Tom, gave his life at Gettysburg, July 3rd. His company was at Cemetery Ridge.
Don't read the rest, John. I know what it is.
Very well, sir.
I was asked to tell you about Gettysburg, sir.
I think I know what I'll say tomorrow, John. The whole thing has come clear to me like a great light.
Them fellas that started this country back in '76 started something that was meant to be.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
It's worth fighting to keep.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure.
It's worth dying for. If the fellows that don't die take care of it after you're gone.
We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We are met to dedicate a portion of it as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether
We are now engaged in another war, a world war. This will be a long and a hard fight. Production of war materials must be doubled and quadrupled. What have you done to help double, let alone quadruple, output of our mines and factories so that soldiers and sailors may be supplied with weapons? How many dollars have you put into United States defense bonds? Double it. How many times have you bought them? Quadruple it. Make your bond buying a regular program. Buy as many bonds as you can today and every payday. Buy them at your bank, post office, and savings and loan association. Get defense stamps from your newspaper carrier boy and your retail dealer. Set yourself a quota, then beat it. Join your country in all-out defense against the Axis. Have you bought
Any bonds today, any bonds today. Bonds of freedom, that's what I'm selling, any bonds today. Scrape up the most you can. Here comes the freedom man asking you to buy a share of freedom today. Any stamps today.
You've been listening to Any Bonds Today, the transcribed program of the United States Treasury Department for Defense Bonds and Stamps. Stars of this program were Henry Fonda and Barry Wood. This is Larry Elliott speaking for the Treasury Department.
There you have it from February 4th, 1942. Any Bonds Today. Trying to drum up support for World War II, and most importantly, trying to convince people that they need to spend money to support the bonds program and to support World War II. It was almost a pay-as-you-go war because the American people, instead of being taxed for it, were loaning money basically to Uncle Sam to prosecute the war. The American people got behind the war. They supported the war. The war ultimately successful. But all I can say at this point is I don't like war. And but these programs that came of it just make you go, the American people were never behind any war as much as they were World War II. Any Bonds Today, February 4th, 1942, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Would you like to hear more of those propaganda-type programs? And yeah, they're propaganda, okay? It's for our side, but it's still propaganda. If you'd like to hear more of those kind of shows, let me know. You can contact me through my webpage, classicradio.stream, or you can contact me through any of the social media platforms. You can find all of our social media platforms linked up at our webpage, classicradio.stream. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Those are the only ones we're on at the moment. And I hope that while you're at classicradio.stream, you'll learn more about building your own classic radio collection. You'll contact me, and you will just, check it out, classicradio.stream. Or if you miss a day on this station, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available anywhere podcasts are served, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Just search for Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. If you were following us previously, make sure you're following us, Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Have yourself a great day. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial, Classic Radio Theater on your favorite radio station.